So it looks like we're missing Edgar today. We will continue onward. So this week was the discussion of integration, transfer, conceptual blending. So,
and what they do to solve the problem.
A problem, yes.
Yeah.
So, where would we like to begin with that?
The reading right now.
As in,
so in the reading, one thing about transfer that I found I didn't really like is that the school system expects transfer to happen without
facilitating it, right?
Yeah. And I thought that was on the teaching for transfer one.
Right. It did feel like the reading was kind of impressing the fact that we're taught more than just the material, but also how to approach the material in school. And perhaps unintentionally, we're taught the latter. And then that means that we have deficiencies when it comes to applying short and long transfers of information and scenario, just because we're not taught how to do it necessarily.
Yeah, so I found it. So it says like the implicit assumption in educational practice has been that transfer takes care of itself. And I said like that correlates kind of with the Bo Peep theory of transfer. And I think that was outdated personally. When I
would also be interested to see how old the reading was, or like the articles were.
Yeah, I saw that. It said like 1980.
Oh man, nothing's changed. Bro.
It's funny that they're still talking about like standardized testing and all that stuff 30 years ago. We're talking about it now.
Let's see.
Being debated.
Trying to find a specific place. It was the specific transfer questions in the reading itself. You gave like 2 or 3 examples of questions which could be used to promote transfer in specific scenarios. I'm trying to find them. But I want you guys' opinion on them. It's going to take a bit.
You guys read about like the high ground and low ground transfer, right?
Yes. Which I feel would be more aptly and more succinctly named to active and passive transfer, but
yeah. So I was a little confused about how it was worded to me. But I did really like the example they gave where it's like going from driving 2 different cars, you know, or what was the other one? It says, yeah, like automatic transmission to standard transmission, or a Ford automatic to a Chrysler automatic.
Right.
They're different, but they're really not that different. Going from another automatic to an automatic, the transfer is very, I'd say, limited because you don't really need a lot of new skill.
Right. I feel that the example itself called into question the date of the text for me, because I was wondering if it's talking transfer one way or the other, which I would argue in this example, going one way is not as easy as it is going to the other. Going from an automatic transmission only and learning a manual, I feel and I've heard is difficult it's more difficult than a manual going to an automatic, because manual to automatic is less to do in general.
Yeah, manual to automatic is, I would say, a low road transfer, because you don't need any new skills to do that. We're going from an automatic to a standard. It would be high road, even though it's the same thing, it's just reversed. Because I think the skill set is different.
Right. Sorry.
And then it was talking about, transfer in the school system. And I think that, like, after reading, I think taking the knowledge that we have in school and trying to transfer it into the real world situation without learning any real world situations in school, I would consider it more of a high road transfer than a low road when solving the problems in the real world.
All things considered, because we weren't implicitly taught how to make transfers, you think that the transferring of our scholastic lexicon into real world is high road?
Yeah.
Understood. Makes
Because
sense.
in school we weren't introduced to any real world situations. I would say for me until like the last maybe year or two. But it was a lot, like growing up, it was just a lot of.
In my experience, it was actually, it was interesting. I've moved right past a lot of classes that I would have assumed were useful. For instance, my girlfriend has taken the applied mathematics course. And if you don't know what applied mathematics is, that's the course of taxation and economy and how mathematics fits into finance and savings. And so it focuses a lot on like principal investment and, the PE raised to the RT, those kind of weird equations. I never took that class. I was up taking, pre-calculus, calculus while she was taking advanced mathematics, and that kind of instilled her with a better understanding of the way the financial world works than me. Even though, according to the school system, advanced mathematics is like an entry-level math class that scholastically more adept individuals would gloss right over because they don't need it. It doesn't fulfill a higher end requirement. So I wonder how much is missed due to the kind of fast track paths or kind of alternative paths that the school just doesn't want to promote as much. Though I wouldn't say that we're not necessarily exposed to attempts at making bridges in a scholastic setting, mostly because of the problems that were put actually in the reading, the example problems. And I want you guys' opinion on these. The problems that they give are, for instance, what general factors provoked the American Revolution and where are they operating in the world today? That's one. How is the treatment of Blacks in the US South before the Civil War like or unlike the treatment of Blacks in South Africa today? So those are kind of sample problems where you are required to kind of make your own bridges and synthesize. But I saw those problems and I felt like queasy. I'm like, I've seen these kind of problems before and I just don't like them. They're always the problems that come last in a series of problems. And they're always the problems that like the teacher will mark really erratically because it's their worldview colliding with ours, basically.
Yeah.
Like you saw those problems, and did you guys feel like a little like iffy on them? You're like, I've seen these kind of problems before, and I don't like them.
I think opinions can be very easily integrated into them.
And I mean, it's definitely easy to see what the questions are trying to ask, and synthesis is kind of the skill that's being exercised here. But it's just like you look at the question and you say it's so much work. Like, why would I have to spend so much time on this? like in comparison to the other questions. Again, it's always one that comes last in the paper. It's just annoying.
I would say the questions are more like integrated thinking.
Right.
You actually have to do more research and look at both sides before you can actually come to a logical.
Right. And I think that's kind of the curriculum wouldn't come out and say it, or maybe the curriculum doesn't even understand it itself. Like that's them kind of trying to instill, the ability of bridge and thinking across barriers into us, and we just hate it. We just kind of assume like this is a question that stands out as noteworthy for its annoyingness, in my experience at least. So I would say that nowadays it's not necessarily that the curriculum isn't devoid of opportunities to learn hugging and bridging and thinking across barriers, but necessarily that's not necessarily that the curriculum is telling us that that's what it's doing. Whereas, with new mathematical or scientific principles, you understand the applications and what like the curriculum is trying to teach you. But it seems like in this instance, the curriculum doesn't even know that it's trying to teach us that. And therefore, it can't really lean into it to the fullest effect.
Yeah. Conceptual blending, where I don't remember where that is.
Neither do I. Was there actually any different instance of conceptual blending?
Well, we can move on to the next one.
What skills are important for human beings?
Yeah. So we discussed the key ideas in common between them and how do they solve the problem. I guess we can go into the next one, right? What do they allow us human beings to do? These skills. What do they give our species as a whole? That's the first one.
I would guess, assert, I guess, as the first position that they are a natural evolution of problem solving skills that based on like, beyond our simple logical problem skills, they are kind of an advancement that would help bridge disparate issues. And again, you saw it in like thinking of violence as a disease. It allowed the people that were concerned to solve that problem, begin approaching it from a different avenue and more effective avenue. So I'd say as the first position is that conceptual blending, hugging and bridging helps a person, I guess, a leader or innovator begin to approach problems in new and possibly more effective ways. Anything else?
We can talk about local knowledge. I was a little not confused, but needed local knowledge to be cleared up a little bit. What do you guys think that is? Do you think that local knowledge is just the knowledge that us individually have like available to us?
local knowledge isn't necessarily person-based. It's task-based. It's situation-based. So it was just defining like chess, and how even though chess is an entirely perfect logical game according to game theory, like it doesn't always end up in a draw like it should, because people make mistakes and people don't have complete lexicons. And generally, your higher skill players in chess have more local knowledge, as that's called. They have a stronger ability to recognize patterns because they've seen the patterns many, many more times before than their opponents. And they understand what those patterns mean if they should.
So like in that instance, it would be your experience, right?
Yes, your experience with a task and related tasks.
I don't think chess would be a good way to test someone's intellectual capability if you just put two people.
As a diagnostic test, it would be quite poor, yes. But it is, because it is a game in the end. It is more than just its logical component. And therefore it can't be an accurate test.
One example of like local knowledge that I've seen is at like Starbucks, is when I like train people. When people come in, a lot of times we have people that are younger and it's their first job, and there's the way I have to like almost talk to them and explain things is different than someone that has worked at another, let's say, fast food restaurant for a year or 2 years or something, like Chick-fil-A or something like high paced or In-N-Out. There's a lot of like very simple things that should come natural, I would think, to anyone that has worked in food before. But there's absolute no knowledge when that stuff happens. Like, for instance, like when I train people, I like food safety is for people that have never had a job. They don't really know a lot about food safety. So like when I train people, that's the first thing I start with is food safety, and we go over that stuff. And like for teas, like tongs and stuff, you take the tongs, you take the tea bags and all that stuff. But I see other trainers where if someone's first job, they don't really know a whole lot about food safety. So they just train from the book and they don't go over food safety because that's not our job to go over food safety. And they'll like stick their hand in and take the bag out. Just like little things that you'd be like, why would you stick your hand in the TV? Like that's someone's tea. You're not going to stick your hand in it. Just little local knowledge that they don't have. That's one example that I've learned in my professional life.
I would actually agree. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but it makes complete sense when you say it. And that is like, if you local knowledge to like the food industry or like service industry, and where like first time hires to that industry notably have like slower times of picking up new skills, whereas people that have been in the industry before and are just transferring, like making sideways lateral leaps to new jobs, they already understand, like you need to sanitize this, you need to do that. They understand like jargon as well, things like that. So I guess your local knowledge for like an industry is definitely a strong example.
Yes. You guys have anything? I need a second to think about.
I want to ask Paige specifically, is there any athletic local knowledge that you'd have if you've made leaps? And I'm putting you on the spot here and I just don't know. Is there any like transferable skills other than, diligence, discipline, things like that, between different athletic circles, would you say? That aren't just like social and interpersonal dynamics, but like actual skills?
I think that everything, like from my freshman year to now, I've like completely transformed as an athlete. And it's not just from like a physical aspect. but mentally, like going through certain experiences have allowed me to progress a lot faster. And I mean, you kind of see it like with our freshman class now, like they're just, I mean, they're so immature and they've never been in an environment like they are right now. So it's harder for them to um, act certain ways that are necessary for like a team dynamic. So I would say yes, but I also think that with integration, transfer, and conceptual blending, all of that type of stuff, I think all of it can be learned through experiences. So you're never gonna be thrown into something like, I work at a gym. If I worked at Starbucks, like I would have no idea what I'm doing. So I think everything in some aspect is just learned through experience, and you can't have the expectation that someone's gonna be perfect right off the bat, because like you have to transfer that information and adapt to your surroundings and all that type of stuff. So
Right.
I don't know. That's
Have
my
you,
take on this.
so
whole
you play
chapter.
volleyball, we say yes?
Yeah.
Have you played any other sport before volleyball in your life?
Yeah, I played soccer and I ran track.
Understood. Do you note that your peers or the people more novel to your circle, I guess, is there any trend in people who are prior athletes and their skill at volleyball, or rather their skill in either the game or social group dynamic of the sport?
I'm sorry, are you asking if like other athletes that I've known or have been around would be like
Right.
good
Are
at
of the
volleyball?
people that you know, be it your peers or the newer generation, so to speak, the freshmen, sophomores, would you say that the people, and I don't know how well you know your peers or not, if you know anything about them, and if you know any that were prior athletes before volleyball or just before college, do you
Mhm.
notice whether or not they are more or less disposed to being proficient, I guess, in either the game itself or the social group aspect of the game? Basically, if your friends played another sport before, are they better at volleyball now because of it?
No, I would not.
No. You say there's no trend.
No, I would say that they're completely unrelated. Like I didn't start playing
Understood.
volleyball until my sophomore year of high school. So the fact that like I even made it to college was pretty unbelievable.
Hmm. Interesting. I do find that interesting that you
But
don't
like
notice a correlation.
other kids who have been playing volleyball since they were 5 years old and they're here.
She's cut out entirely now.
Yeah, but I would say they're completely unrelated. Maybe like their discipline aspect and like their drive to be the best person or be that they've had more experience in like the volleyball is a unique sport. No, shoot.
One thing that comes to my mind, because we were talking about sports, because I played golf in high school, but I played before that, I played baseball. So going from baseball to golf, that transfer after being in golf, for a couple years, I was able to figure it out. But as I'm helping people, that are just coming in, when they were coming in from baseball, they had the same exact problems that I was having, because baseball you swing a completely different way than golf. And when you transfer that, I would say, like when we transfer that, we both had the same exact problem because we both tried to transfer the same way, essentially. We tried to take our baseball swing and put it lower into a golf swing, essentially. So I was able to teach him like in a week to fix the problem that took me a year and a half, because I already knew what he was going to do before he was doing it. That was one example that came up with sports with me. Do you guys have any about to come into play in your own life or the lives of others?
Yeah, by nature, it's difficult for me to actually even think about a time where I've made even an insignificant leap. And I guess partially I'm cowed by how profound the examples that we've been given are, especially like the thinking of violence as a disease. Like that is like groundbreaking stuff. I can't even think of like even minor things that I've exhibited recently that display, bridging and hugging and passing of thought through barriers. It's interesting. And I know that it happens throughout history. And I know that there's been some major historical points that happened because people thought of things in different ways. And I can't think for once, like even anything about that right now. I have no idea. I'm certain it's happened.
Okay, like one thing, I don't really know how to word this, but maybe you guys can like help me. So it was saying, the lives of others where you've learned to see around you, like where these skills transfer. So I just learned that my friend doesn't have a bank account. That's a little weird, right? Like you guys both have bank accounts.
Right. It is
Okay.
that is strange.
Yeah. Like he's 20 or 9. Yeah, he's 20. He doesn't have like a debit card or a bank card or a bank account. So I thought that was really weird. And I'm trying to think of like the skills transfer of maybe growing up in different households where I guess maybe his parents don't stress that enough, but I don't know. Like I feel like he's not pushing to be independent at all from his parents.
Is it that he isn't independent from his parents, or is that he only spends, cash money instead of,
No, he is very dependent
uh,
with his parent. Like he lives with his parents, so do I. But he doesn't, like I was talking with him, all his money, like he has a job, he works at the same place as like mom does, and all his checks go to his mom's account, which is just so weird to me. Like he never sees the money. Like if he wants to get money from his paycheck, he has to ask his mom for money. I don't know. That's just really weird to me.
do you think it's like a financial motivation aspect, or do you think it's more family aspect of what's going on?
I think it's more family aspect.
You think that their family just doesn't
Financial.
stress the financial independence yet?
Yeah, because the original conversation where it started is we were talking about savings.
Right.
And like a few of my friends were talking about like our 401ks because a few of us have started it. And then he was saying he doesn't have a savings. And I was like, okay, well, you can set one up through your bank account. Like I can show you.
Right.
Like, oh, I don't have a bank account. And then that's how that started.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Would you say that this friend of yours like is expected to move away from home? I guess I know that especially nowadays, while it was a precedent in some countries abroad, especially in America nowadays, there are more and more people who are not leaving their nuclear familial unit. They're living in the same house nowadays.
But I think that those skills, like the ones he should have learned in school to, you know, get your own bank account. I would say get a credit card at 18, but that's what I would say to do. But I think those are skills that he just either wasn't taught and he's not able to transfer over, but I really do believe that those skills are needed in the real world and in humanity.
The navigation of financial society.
Yeah, you need to be able to manage your own money.
Right.
Because like I don't have a problem with living at home. Like I plan on living at home until I'm done with school.
Mhm.
But he needs to start learning how to manage his own money.
Right.
Because he's going to need that skill eventually when he moves out. But that was the example in the lives of others that I was I don't know, I was just a little baffled by. So I was wondering what you guys were thinking about that. I think the skills are very, very valuable in our like future professional life, being able to take the skills that we have learned and transfer them over to the problems that we're going to face in the future. Especially like I plan on having some sort of business because I'd like to have my own business. So I know I'm going to need to be able to transfer my skills over to the problems I'm going to face eventually.
Yeah, no, I'd say that even socially, it is an important skill to develop, to be able to make active transfer of your knowledge. Again, it's no problem exists in a vacuum, and being able to open up a wider array of tools for you to solve and understand a problem can lead to not only solutions, but better solutions. There's many ways that you can solve a problem nowadays. And I think modern scholastic knowledge has dictated that the simplest is best, but that isn't necessarily true. And I feel that like, you know, the shortest is simplest theory is not necessarily what holds up nowadays. It is that you need to find a solution that satisfies many, many different constraints adequately. And trade-offs become not necessarily a necessary evil, but something that you should work around. They become roadblocks. And I guess nowadays it's an important skill to be able to look beyond the constraints of what you think your problem is. See if there's ways that you can navigate around those constraints and keep pushing for, you know, wider boundaries towards your solution. If that makes sense. You'd like to move on to main idea?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what else to add. I was looking at like local and general knowledge about how we're going to be able to use that in the future. And what I noticed is I think since I have like a little brother, I feel like his just general knowledge is not where we were at that age. I don't really know how to explain it, but I just feel like they don't think a lot before they do something. So they don't have the general knowledge to decide whether something is good or not, or whether they should do something, you know.
I wonder if it's not necessarily that there's a definitely a difference in general knowledge, I'd say, but I wonder if that difference in general knowledge is predicated on the fact that your younger brother has an older sibling, you,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily that they don't think the consequences of their actions. They don't think through. I don't know what your brother's like, but more that if they were doing something egregious, that they have statistically more guidance than even you would have had. Whereas you had to take it onto yourself to guide yourself because you had comparatively less guidance, admonishment, punishment. Your brother kind of has, you know, he is the youngest in the family, I guess. Is that correct? He's basically the youngest figure that we're talking about here, and everything that he knows is above him, basically. And it is that if anything's important, he has 3 people that are willing to take care of it and became better prepared to take care of it and or lend assistance comparison to your 2 at the time, only your 2 parents. And I wonder if that kind of brazen immaturity, again, I don't know the mother.
I never really thought of it that way. That's really good way to look at it, I guess.
Again, it could be entirely wrong
Because
that's
like, I guess he, I don't know, that makes really good sense.
that's my passive transfer, because I have a cousin who is the youngest of 6 kids, and he is in almost done with high school, and he's just brazenly immature. I'm certain I was more mature than him when I was in middle school, and he's almost done with high school.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's similar transfer.
Yeah. So I wonder if it is the lack of responsibility that is not allowing him to have the general knowledge that other people have. Okay. We can go to the big point, I think.
What do we think the big point of the week's content is? I would say it as no topic exists in a vacuum, and being able to find connections between your prior knowledge and current problem can open up stronger and more viable avenues of resolution than one would expect.
Yeah. So being able to transfer your local and general knowledge will allow you to be better at decision making, essentially, is what you said in short.
Just about. Anything to add, Paige? She agrees. Any topics we want for further discussion?
Nothing that I have. Should we try to get a hold of Edgar still for the next meeting?
Yeah, no, I figured that you should probably start drawing things to a close and just anticipate the next meeting.
Okay.
For next week, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it just said my internet's unstable, so I don't know how long this is gonna last.
Don't waste time
But,
then. Go.
I have a game next Saturday, so I can meet on Friday, probably in the evening. If not, I can just talk to the professor about watching the recording.
Understood. So let's set up an alternate Friday time that we'll try to fulfill first. Edgar's not here to give us input, so that could be a little bit of an issue. So
Or I could do like Saturday evening if that works better.
I'll text you guys in the chat. I have to look at my work schedule.
mhm. I'm probably certainly working Saturday evenings, so
Yeah, I'm
it could be
sure
an issue.
I can figure we'll figure something out.
Okay, so we'll try for an alternate Friday time.
Because we could even do like Sunday mornings.
Yeah,
That's
that
true.
works for me too.
That might actually be best.
Might be easier for all of us
Mhm.
if we did like a Sunday at like 9.
I'm totally fine with Sunday
Yeah,
at
that
9 in
would
the
be
morning.
that'd be perfect.
Understood. We'll relay that over to Edgar, see if he doesn't have any problems with it.
Cool.
So I'll set that in stone. Edgar might have things on Sunday morning, so anticipate possibly something like Friday or Saturday. We'll work it out in the group chat. But for now, mark it tentatively at Sunday at 9 a.m. And I will keep you guys posted either through the group chat or announcements in the group about what's changed.
Cool.
Anything further
Did
to add?
you get a screenshot for the?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Anything more to add?
No.
Understood.